Caleb Vance, a man of formidable influence, had taken a sudden interest in the White House's young intern, Rose, who served coffee. Or so it seemed. To show his affection, he requested an audience with President Adrian every day, his tailored suits growing more audacious with each visit. It was all for a cup of coffee and the suggestive glances he threw across the room. Adrian, observing this display, resolved to orchestrate a union between them. Upon receiving the presidential note suggesting the match, Caleb's face flushed with a curious rage. He stormed into the private quarters, cornering Adrian against the grand four-poster bed. His voice was a low growl, a stark contrast to his usual polished tone. He confessed that if there was any pain, Adrian should cry out. Caleb would enjoy the sound. The Lord Chamberlain, Stuart, had announced Caleb's arrival with a discreet bow. It was the 28th time this month. Adrian had closed his eyes, his fingers tapping a rhythmic, silent beat on the mahogany desk. He wondered if this was a form of surveillance. But that made no sense. Caleb had been the architect of his rise to power. Without him, Adrian would still be a political nobody, fighting for scraps in the wilderness of forgotten dynasties. He dismissed the thought, deciding the minds of brilliant men were often inscrutable. He opened his eyes, a serene smile fixed on his face, and gave the order to let him in. Through the heavy oak doors, Caleb's voice could be heard, charming the staff with practiced ease. Adrian felt a prickle of irritation. Caleb never used that ingratiating tone with him, the supposed leader of the free world. It was a bitter reminder of his puppet status. A moment later, Caleb strode into the Oval Study, his posture perfect as he offered a formal nod. He was here, he said, to inquire after the president's well-being. Adrian's gaze lingered on him. The man was striking, with a chiseled, aristocratic profile that seemed both warm and reserved. No matter how many times Adrian saw him, the sight always momentarily stole his breath. He cleared his throat, dismissing the formality and gesturing for Stuart to bring a chair. Stuart, usually imperious, moved with uncharacteristic deference for Caleb. Adrian asked what pressing matter had brought him here today. Caleb's fingers tensed for a second before relaxing. He claimed to have missed the president. Seeing the look of surprise on Adrian's face, Caleb added with a slow, deliberate smile, stirring his coffee, that what he truly missed was the coffee served in the president's study. Coffee. Adrian glanced at the cup in his own hand. It was a standard White House blend. He knew for a fact that Caleb, a man from a family of immense wealth, had access to the rarest single estate beans from across the globe. Couldn't be about the coffee. As Adrian scanned the room, his eyes suddenly locked onto a subtle exchange. Caleb sent a brief, smiling glance toward Rose, the intern, as she refilled his cup. She blushed and returned a shy, appreciative nod. Clicked. This man, who treated senators and cabinet members with cool dismissal, was showing such warmth to a junior staffer. He wasn't here for the coffee. He was here for the girl who served it. Amused by Caleb's uncharacteristic impatience, Adrian decided to tease him, drawing out his words. He asked if Caleb was longing for the coffee or for the one who poured it. A flash of panic crossed Caleb's features. He stood up, his voice tight, asking nervously how much the president knew. Adrian's tone became light, almost playful. He knew enough. Caleb, looking genuinely anxious, asked what he intended to do. It was astonishing to see him so flustered over this young woman. Adrian, testing the waters, cautiously suggested he could help arrange a match. At these words, the tension in Caleb's shoulders visibly eased. A low chuckle escaped his lips, and he thanked the president for the kind offer, but said it wasn't necessary. He explained that once he persuaded his parents, he would give the president a proper account of his intentions. Proper account? The man was clearly delirious with joy at the prospect of a presidential endorsement. Adrian understood the pressure Caleb was under. As the heir to the Vance dynasty, a family whose power rivaled the state itself, choosing to marry and in turn was a monumental challenge. Moved by this, Adrian stepped closer and clapped a reassuring hand on Caleb's shoulder, telling him to relax, that he was on his side. Caleb's smile turned sly, his voice dropping to an intimate, seductive whisper. He murmured that the president, of course, was his. Adrian glanced at him, but Caleb met his gaze without flinching, his eyes bold and direct. Adrian could only silently rebuke him for such audacity. In the halls of power, the name Vance was spoken with more reverence than his own. But he held his peace. One day, he vowed, everyone would know who truly led the nation. Pushing those thoughts aside, he smiled back at Caleb, who then excused himself, promising to return the next day. Watching him leave, Adrian couldn't help but laugh to himself. Even the great Caleb Vance had his weaknesses. The next day he came again, this time bringing a rare vintage of wine. Wine. Adrian was beginning to tire of these props. Caleb wore a different suit, a crisp charcoal gray that made him look even more distinguished and impossibly elegant, like a figure from a classic film. After they settled, a comfortable silence filled the room. It was obvious to everyone why he was there, but Adrian couldn't simply leave him alone with Rose. So, he initiated conversation, complimenting Caleb's suit and remarking how it enhanced his natural grace. He added, with a pointed glance in Rose's direction, that someone would be very lucky to have him one day. Caleb seemed momentarily surprised, then a genuine smile spread across his face. He replied that if the president found the suit appealing, then that was all that mattered. As he spoke, he never once looked at Rose, even as he asked her to pour the wine. With an attitude like that, Adrian thought he'd never win her over. Adrian mused aloud that it wasn't the wine that was intoxicating, but the person. He then took a sip, remarking on its fine quality, proud of his seamless transition from clothing to beverages. Being a leader required a certain finesse. Caleb looked slightly taken aback but agreed with a tone one might use to humor a child, saying that the president was wise, and he was indeed intoxicated. If he was so intoxicated, Adrian wondered, why were his captivating eyes fixed on him? Deciding to prolong the game, Adrian invited Caleb to stay for lunch. Just then, Stuart entered quietly to announce that Princess Isabella, Adrian's half-sister, had arrived. Stuart cast a subtle, knowing look at Caleb. It was no secret that Isabella had been pursuing Caleb for years. Before Adrian could respond, Isabella swept into the room, her voice preceding her. She declared she had come to see her dear brother and, without waiting for an invitation, sat down next to Caleb. Hearing that Caleb was staying for lunch, she brightly announced her own craving for the kitchen's famous roasted duck, giving Adrian a pleading look. Adrian was torn. Now that he knew about Caleb's feelings for Rose, this felt complicated. Isabella, seeing his hesitation, blinked at him dramatically. He sighed. It was only one meal. He instructed Stuart to have the kitchen prepare the duck. Isabella, satisfied, propped her chin on her hand and gazed adoringly at Caleb. Strangely, Caleb, who had been in high spirits, seemed to darken at the prospect of Isabella joining them. He was likely annoyed that his chance for a private moment with his beloved was ruined. For some reason, Adrian felt a secret thrill of pleasure at Caleb's disappointment. As they ate, A pair of tongs placed a piece of perfectly roasted lamb on Adrian's plate. It was Caleb. He recommended the lamb, his voice smooth. Before Adrian could reply, Isabella interjected with a laugh, pointing out that Adrian had staff to serve him, while she did not. Caleb's movement paused. He replied coolly that the staff service could not compare to his own. He then offered to send Isabella 2 of his most skilled maids if she desired such personal attendance in the future, adding that for his entire life, he would only ever serve the president and his own parents. Isabella fell silent, looking as if she'd swallowed a fly. Caleb continued to serve Adrian, making Stuart, who stood nearby, look completely redundant. Stuart made a move to take the tongs, but a single sharp look from Caleb froze him in place. Adrian observed the dynamics, a swirl of thoughts rising and falling within him. He casually mentioned that a particular soup looked good. Without a hint of impatience, Caleb immediately served it to him. He was willing to humble himself like this, all for that young intern. The thought left a strange, hollow feeling in Adrian's chest. When Isabella left, she had a peculiar expression, muttering to herself that she finally understood. Everyone, it seemed, was acting strangely. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Adrian tossed and turned, his mind racing with thoughts of Isabella, of Caleb, of himself. Caleb appeared in his dreams, draped in translucent silk, lounging on a chaise. He beckoned with a single finger, and Adrian found himself drawn irresistibly toward him. Caleb wrapped an arm around his shoulders, whispering in his ear the same words from lunch. "For my entire life, I will only ever serve the president." Adrian awoke with a start, deeply unsettled by the dream. After that night, he felt awkward. When Caleb came for his daily visit, Adrian made excuses 2 out of 3 times. Caleb, apparently agitated at being denied sight of his love interest, grew bolder. During a cabinet meeting, he made expressive faces at Adrian, a startlingly animated display from the usually composed man. His father, the powerful General Vance, sitting beside him, looked mortified. Adrian suspected Caleb had won some private battle with his father. As expected, Caleb came to his study after the meeting, striding in without being announced. He bowed deeply, his voice earnest. He apologized for Adrian's avoidance, assuming it was because he hadn't spoken to his parents sooner. He then declared that he had talked with his father the night before, and his father had agreed. As he spoke, Caleb looked up, his gaze burning with an intensity that Adrian found unnerving. Adrian responded with a cool, detached tone, asking if Caleb was truly so pleased. His words seemed to deflate Caleb, who looked genuinely confused. He asked if the president wasn't happy. Adrian snapped back that he wasn't unhappy, his voice rising like a startled cat's. He declared that since he'd offered to arrange the union, he would see it through. He told Caleb to go home and wait. He felt a pang of uncertainty. Could he really do this? He was a figurehead. But Caleb provided an out, suggesting that a handwritten note would be more discreet and convenient than a formal order. Adrian agreed. He moved to his desk and wrote a short, elegant note wishing Caleb and the intern, Rose, a lifetime of happiness. He placed it in a beautiful lacquered box. Caleb accepted it like a holy relic, practically floating out of the study in a daze. Adrian had never seen him so utterly unguarded. Later, as Adrian reviewed policy briefings that Caleb had already annotated, a wave of irritation washed over him. He couldn't focus. He decided to take a nap. Just then, Caleb burst back into the room, holding the handwritten note. Stuart scurried in behind him, stammering an apology. Caleb's voice was sharp as he dismissed everyone from the room. When they were alone, his face was a thundercloud. He held up the note. "This," he said, his voice dangerously low, "is the blessing you grant me? Think carefully before you answer, Adrian." Adrian was bewildered. He retorted that Caleb had asked for a note, and he had provided one. What more did he want? At this, Caleb's lips pressed into a thin, hard line. In the next instant, he seized Adrian's wrist, pulling him forward until their bodies were nearly touching. His voice was a hot breath against Adrian's ear. "If it hurts in a moment, I want you to make a sound. I like to hear it." The sudden movement, the shocking words, left Adrian stunned. What was he supposed to call for? Security? He tried to pull his hand away, but Caleb's grip tightened. Caleb pressed Adrian's hand against his own chest, forcing him to feel the frantic, heavy beat of his heart. "Have some pity on me, Adrian," he pleaded, his voice thick with a strange vulnerability, though his actions remained utterly dominant. Adrian's neck flushed, though he fought to maintain a calm facade. "Caleb Vance," he said, his voice shaking despite his efforts, "do you have any idea what you're doing?" Caleb ignored a slow smile spreading across his face. His free hand traced a path from Adrian's cheek down his neck, sending shivers through him. Adrian's resolve softened. "Caleb, listen to me," but before he could formulate a coherent thought, Caleb's mouth was on his. The kiss was warm, electric, and utterly unlike the man himself. It was not gentle or reserved. It was ravenous, as if he meant to consume him whole. Adrian grew breathless, his hands pushing weakly against Caleb's chest. Finally, Caleb pulled back, his own breathing ragged. He took Adrian's hand again, pressing it against the undeniable evidence of his arousal. "Rian," he sighed, the sound a mix of desperation and, "You had better not provoke me any further tonight, or you will truly suffer the consequences." The name Rian stopped Adrian cold. It was the private name Caleb had given him years ago, when he had found him in political exile and taken him under his wing. Everyone else saw a kingmaker positioning his pawn, but only Adrian knew the truth. Caleb had taught him how to be a leader, how to hide his strength, how to command respect, how to fight. When Adrian had once asked why he did so much, Caleb had always deflected, saying he would understand when the time was right. It was all starting to make sense. Seeing Adrian's stunned silence, Caleb continued, his voice softer now. "That day when you offered to help, I thought you understood. I was so happy I couldn't sleep all night. Are you really that blind? Or did you just not want to see? Everything I have, everything I am, it's all for you." His frustration mounted. "Fine. If words don't work, I'll have to show you." He scooped Adrian into his arms and carried him toward the bed. The cords in his neck stood out, his breathing heavy. Adrian instinctively wrapped his arms around Caleb's neck. As Caleb laid him down, Adrian leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Caleb, don't make me hate you." The effect was instantaneous. Caleb's body went rigid. A pained grunt escaped his lips. He froze, then slowly, he rolled off the bed and knelt on the floor, his formal shirt in disarray, revealing the faint flush on his skin. "I request that the president issue a punishment for my crime." "And what crime is that, Caleb?" Adrian asked softly. "I have defied my father and insulted my president," he said, his voice steady, his clear eyes fixed on Adrian. "On the contrary," Adrian began, rising from the bed and walking toward him. "If you are willing to defy the world for me, then I would call you the most loyal man in the nation. And such a man should be rewarded with anything he desires, including me." He stood before Caleb, his fingers gently tracing the line of his jaw. Caleb didn't move for a long moment, then slowly leaned into the touch. Adrian knew he had made his decision. "I am willing to follow you, Mr. President. In life and in death," Caleb vowed, his voice low and as solid as a mountain. Adrian knelt and Caleb stood. They remained that way for a long time, the balance of power shifting forever between them. After that night, nothing was said, but everything had changed. In the political arena, Caleb became a relentless force, targeting the entrenched dynasties. Any hint of corruption, abuse of power, or dereliction of duty, he pursued with dogged tenacity. Old allies who came seeking favors were turned away. Within weeks, the halls of power felt emptier, a sense of fear pervading the air. Men who once swaggered now scurried out of Caleb's path. He, however, seemed indifferent to the animosity. His only change in routine was that his daily visits now concluded not in the study, but in the presidential bedchambers. Stuart was once heard muttering by the door about the strangeness of it, but Adrian only smiled to himself. A sharp blade needed to be honed with care. Then came the day the government was truly shaken. Caleb stood before the assembly and formally accused his own father, General Vance, of treason and massive misappropriation of funds. He did so with a calm, detached air, as if speaking of a stranger. Adrian feigned weariness, massaging his temples. This move had caught him completely by surprise. Before he could speak, the general's allies leaped to his defense, accusing Caleb of being an unfilial son and a purveyor of slander. They spoke of the general's legendary service, of his victories that had secured the nation's borders. The two sides were at a stalemate. Adrian broke the silence with a soft chuckle. He looked directly at Caleb. "You make such a bold claim, Caleb. Do you have proof?" "I have compiled the evidence," Caleb said, presenting a thick dossier. Adrian took it and smiled. It wasn't evidence of a crime. It was a confession of heroism. The misappropriation was seizing enemy assets to fund a critical, unapproved rescue mission for the previous president. The treason was using those funds to stabilize a volatile border region when the government was in chaos. Caleb had considered every angle, except for the damage to his own reputation. If Adrian pursued the charges, he could reclaim military authority from the Vances, and the general, a national hero, would likely face only a minor censure. If he dismissed them, he would appear magnanimous, winning public favor. But in either outcome, Caleb, the son who accused his own father, would be politically ruined. The man everyone thought wanted the presidency for himself was now offering himself as the arrow to pierce the heart of the dynastic system. As president, Adrian should have seized the opportunity. Consolidate power, punish Caleb, and become the undisputed ruler he was meant to be. But looking at Caleb, he couldn't do it. He wouldn't let him fall from grace just to lift him higher. "Caleb Vance," he thought, "you magnificent fool." "Caleb, this is no time for jokes," Adrian said, his voice firm, his eyes locked on Caleb's. "General Vance is a man of great honor. You will apologize to him at once." Caleb stared, his expression unreadable, his eyelashes fluttering. Then, a hint of something, disbelief, relief, flickered in his eyes. "Yes, Mr. President," he said, his voice slightly hoarse. The great drama ended just like that. But what Adrian found most interesting was that through it all, General Vance, the accused, had not said a single word. Night fell, but Caleb did not come to his chambers. Adrian tossed in bed, a knot of anxiety in his stomach. Did Caleb regret it? But what was there to regret? Adrian was the one who had passed up a golden opportunity. Unable to sleep, he summoned Stuart. "Prepare the car and a security detail. I'm paying a visit to the Vance estate. He tried to sound casual, but his quick strides betrayed his urgency. If the mountain will not come to me, he thought, then I must go to the mountain. The gates to the Vance estate were wide open, the grounds eerily silent. A single light burned from a building in the distance. Adrian held up a hand to stop Stuart from announcing him. This was a private drama, and he intended to watch it unfold. The light came from the family's private memorial chapel. Peeking through a crack in the door, he saw Caleb kneeling in the center of the room, his back laced with fresh welts from a whip. A surge of anger tightened Adrian's fists. General Vance stood with his back to his son. Caleb, since you were a boy, you have never given your mother or me a day of worry. Even when you told me you had found someone you loved but could not marry, and would therefore remain single, I did not question you. So tell me, why did I have you disciplined tonight? He turned, his eyes fixed on his son, waiting for an answer. Caleb's voice was strained, but his words were clear. He explained his plan: to use the threat against his family to force Adrian's hand in consolidating power, while leaving just enough evidence for his father to be exonerated. It was disloyal to the president, as it forced his hand. It was disrespectful to you, father. I failed you both. I deserve this punishment. The general shook his head slowly. Have we become such strangers, my son? You risked your name and your life to secure the president's power. That is loyalty. You accused me but provided the means for my defense. That is respect. You thought of everyone. But what about you? Did your mother and I raise you to throw yourself away like this? His voice trembled with emotion. He then asked the question that hung in the air. Tell me the truth, Caleb. The one you love. It is the president, isn't it? Caleb's calm facade finally broke. His reply was firm. Yes, I love him. I want to be the sword in his hand as he forges an era of peace. He is brilliant and decisive, but he also has compassion. He is a natural-born leader. You taught me to be loyal, father. I have found my leader. The old dynasties are a cancer on this nation, but they are too entrenched. The only way to remove them without a bloody civil war is to destroy them from within. I knew you would not approve, so I thought it best if you cast me out. He bowed his head low. The general cut him off. Who said I wouldn't approve? Caleb looked up, shocked. His father's expression was not one of disappointment, but of grim resolve. Son, I punish you tonight for not trusting me, for thinking you had to bear this alone. I have seen battlefields where our men died while the powerful feasted. If these dynasties have become a plague upon our people, then let them be destroyed. Go, do what you must. I will be your shield. With that, the general's gaze, sharp as an eagle's, shot directly toward the chapel door. Mr. President, do you find my reasoning sound? He had been discovered. Adrian straightened his coat and entered through the main door. He walked past them to the memorial altar, lit a stick of incense, and bowed deeply, an act reserved for family. By doing this, he was signaling that he would share Caleb's fate, whatever it might be. The general did not stop him. Adrian then turned to face him. Your reasoning is impeccable, General. And my actions, do they meet with your approval? Entirely, the general replied, a ghost of a smile on his lips. A soft cough came from Caleb. Adrian turned to see him sway and collapse to the floor. The family doctor reported that the young master was suffering from exhaustion and a high fever exacerbated by his injuries. After some medicine and a few days of rest, he would be fine. Adrian breathed a sigh of relief. He then turned to the general and suggested that since the general had had a long day, perhaps he should be the one to watch over Caleb. The general's smile was knowing and deep. "He is injured, Mr. President. Please be gentle with him." Then he left, taking the nervous doctor with him. Adrian pondered the general's parting words. Did he really seem so predatory? Besides, after last night, Caleb was the one who needed to be gentle. Shaking his head, he sat by Caleb's bedside, quietly watching him sleep. He traced the lines of his face with his finger, from his forehead to his lips, a wave of shame washing over him for ever doubting Caleb's devotion. The man on the bed opened his eyes and caught his wrist. "Rian?" Caleb whispered, his voice weak. "You're awake. I'll get the doctor, don't go," Caleb murmured. "Stay with me. I haven't had a chance to talk to you all day." His voice was frail, and Adrian immediately sat back down, promising to stay, but he had to take his medicine later. Caleb was terrified of bitter things. Adrian had once seen him hide behind a rock garden as a boy to avoid it. Adrian had left a piece of candy for him by the water's edge. It was the first time they had truly connected. They smiled at the shared memory. "I won't hide," Caleb promised. "But did you bring me any candy today, Rian?" People were always more vulnerable when they were sick. Caleb nuzzled against his hand, and the simple touch sent a pleasant warmth through Adrian. In that moment, if Caleb had asked for the moon, he would have found a ladder. But he hadn't brought anything. He promised to bring some tomorrow. Caleb wasn't satisfied. His eyes sparkled. "Then kiss me. If you kiss me, the medicine won't be bitter." Adrian smoothed the crease between his brows. How could anyone be so easy to please, asking only for a kiss after taking a beating for him? Caleb watched him, his eyes full of love. Adrian leaned down and gently kissed his lips. Thinking of all the unspoken sacrifices, of the tense cabinet meeting and the dark chapel, his nose began to sting. A tear escaped and rolled down his cheek, landing on Caleb's. Caleb struggled to sit up, frantically wiping the tear away. "Rian, what's wrong? I was only joking. If you don't want to, I'll never ask again. Please don't cry." Adrian buried his face in Caleb's shoulder, hugging him tightly, his fingers tracing the bandages on his back as he tried to stifle his sobs. Caleb sighed, a helpless, tender sound. "Rian," he murmured, "if you hold me any tighter, I might start getting other ideas." The solid warmth of his chest was comforting. Adrian lifted his head, and Caleb gently wiped his remaining tears away with a handkerchief, his gaze soft and serious. "Don't cry. It hurts me to see it." Suddenly, Adrian didn't want Caleb to hold back any longer. Their feelings were mutual. This was natural. He gripped the front of Caleb's shirt, pulling him closer. Caleb looked at him, his eyes questioning, the tips of his ears turning pink. "I'm willing," Adrian whispered, his voice barely audible. Caleb froze, staring at him. "What did you say?" Adrian tilted his head, feigning confusion. "Did your injury affect your hearing, too?" He raised his voice slightly. "I said, I'm willing." With a sudden pull, Caleb had him tumbling onto the bed. His voice was a husky growl in Adrian's ear. "You shouldn't have said that to me while you were crying." His eyes were dark with intent. As he moved to press his advantage, Adrian hooked his arms around Caleb's neck and kissed him. A fiery, passionate kiss that left them both breathless. "Rian," Caleb gasped when they finally broke apart. "You're playing with fire." He started to move again, then hissed in pain. Adrian looked back and saw fresh spots of red seeping through the bandages. He immediately tried to stop him. "Caleb, you're back. The arrow is already on the bowstring," Caleb gritted out. Adrian felt a pang of regret. He shouldn't have provoked him. The general had been right to warn him. "Rian," Caleb said, his voice strained. "You get on top. Adrian blinked. On top? Really? Was it possible that Caleb's dominance was just a test, and he secretly wanted Adrian to take the lead? Yes, Caleb confirmed. You move. That way it won't strain my back. Adrian hesitated, but the invitation from the man he loved was too potent to refuse. And besides, being on top meant he was in control. He could stop if things got out of hand. That was his logic, anyway. He hadn't realized that by on top, Caleb meant this on top. Caleb Vance, you bastard, Adrian gasped out between breaths. This is what you meant by on top? You deceitful insubordinate. He was cut off by Caleb's own pained grunt of pleasure. What's wrong? Rian? You are on top. The president should always be on top. And as for insubordination, it seems to me the president quite enjoys it. He passed out sometime before dawn. When he woke, he was curled in Caleb's arms. Caleb stirred but didn't open his eyes, simply pulling him closer. Sleep a little longer, Rian, he murmured, his voice thick and intimate. Adrian swatted his hand away, a dull ache in his lower back making him grumpy. Caleb chuckled, explaining that his father would have informed the cabinet that both of them were indisposed and canceled morning appointments. Adrian realized it was true. Like father, like son, both master strategists. But the thought of a day without duties was wonderful, and he settled back into the embrace. They stayed in bed until noon. Lunch was a spread of light, simple dishes for Caleb's recovery, with one exception: a plate of roasted lamb. Just like before, Caleb served him, but this time Adrian's thoughts were different. If Caleb had felt this way about him for so long, why had he stared so intently at Rose, the intern? Now he had the confidence to ask. He put down his fork and crossed his arms. Caleb, he began casually, why were you so interested in Rose a few weeks ago? Caleb looked blank for a moment. Which staffer was that? Adrian wasn't sure if he was being genuine or teasing. He shot him a look. The one who serves the coffee in my study. The one you were always staring at. A slow smile spread across Caleb's face. Rian, are you jealous? The direct question made Adrian blush. He avoided Caleb's gaze, trying to look stern, but the heat in his cheeks betrayed him. Caleb leaned in and placed a soft kiss on his forehead. Eat your food and stop trying to seduce me. Seeing Adrian was genuinely getting annoyed, Caleb finally relented. Her emerald earrings were beautiful. I was just thinking how good a pair like that would look on you. I was looking at them so often because I was trying to memorize the design. Adrian touched his earlobe. That explained why Caleb had been so fascinated with his ears last night. Fine, he said, a smile finally breaking through. On our wedding day, you can put them on me yourself. Caleb's hand, holding a piece of lamb, froze mid-air. His throat worked. Are you sure? He asked, his voice low and raspy. President does not make idle promises. The next day, Adrian stood before the full assembly and issued an executive order. Caleb Vance, son of General Vance, was to be named Prince Consort, a position of equal authority to his own. From this day forward, they would rule together. An order from one was an order from both. The chamber, which had been buzzing with speculation, fell into a stunned silence. After Caleb's recent purges, no one dared to speak out. All eyes turned to the Vances, father and son, who both stood looking calmly ahead. Finally, an old senator, a relic from 3 administrations past, stepped forward. Mr. President, he cried, this decision concerns the very future of our republic. It cannot be a joke. Mr. Vance is a man. How can he be consort? What of the succession? The nation will be left without an heir. Adrian looked down at the senator, his eyes narrowed. "Your concern is noted, Senator." But the senator interrupted him. "Mr. President, do not be reckless. If you cannot be dissuaded, I will have failed my duty to my predecessors." His speech was full of righteous thunder, but Adrian knew the man had several granddaughters of marriageable age, all hoping for a connection to the presidency. Adrian waited until the man had exhausted his patriotic fervor. Then he spoke, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the room. "Last night, the founding fathers came to me in a dream. They told me that the recent instability in this country is my fault, for I have been distracted by trivial matters. They said that with Mr. Vance as my partner, I will be guided back to the path of righteousness, for the good of all our citizens." He paused, letting the absurdity sink in. "Senator, are you suggesting we should ignore a message from the founders themselves? Perhaps instead of worrying about my private life, you should focus on your own." He leaned forward, a dangerous smile playing on his lips. "You have 5 granddaughters, all of them of age. Is your passionate opposition perhaps rooted in a desire to see one of them in this position?" The senator's face turned ashen, and he sank lower to the ground. Adrian stood, his voice ringing with newfound authority. "To everyone here, whether you were elected or appointed, your focus should be on policy, on governance, on whether the people of this nation have food on their tables and roofs over their heads. It is not to meddle in affairs that have no bearing on the welfare of the people. This session is adjourned." The news that the mad president was taking a male consort spread like wildfire. In the capital, it was a week's worth of gossip before being replaced by the next scandal. But in a remote southwestern territory, a group of dissenters, financed by a wealthy mining magnate named Marcus Thorne, whose family had been censured by Caleb, used the news as a pretext to launch an armed rebellion. They had already seized 3 major towns. "A rebellion?" Adrian asked, sitting up in Caleb's arms. Caleb looked equally amused. "It seems we pushed them too far," he said with a wry smile. "The move was illogical. The nation's military was strong, its coffers full. The rebels must have another card up their sleeve." Caleb pointed out that the Thorne family was from the Southwest and still had loyalists in the regional armed forces. With their mining fortune, they could fund a protracted conflict. It all clicked. With the central government cracking down on the old dynasties, the Thornes saw an opportunity to break away. Adrian turned to him, his voice small. "Caleb, you'll support my decision, won't you?" Caleb was silent for a moment, then simply ran a hand through Adrian's hair. "Rian," he said softly, "just promise me you'll come back safe." Adrian wrapped his arms around Caleb's waist, resting his chin on his shoulder, a profound sense of peace settling over him. "With you waiting for me, I will." The cabinet predictably argued over who should lead the campaign. The nation's top generals hadn't seen real combat in a decade and were eager for the glory. Adrian silenced them all. "I will lead this campaign myself," he declared. "All domestic affairs will be managed by the cabinet. For any unresolved issues, you will consult the prince consort. General Vance will take a detachment to secure our eastern flank against any opportunists." General Vance was the first to step forward and voice his support. "I accept my orders." The others reluctantly followed suit. On the day the armies departed, Adrian headed west and General Vance east, leaving Caleb standing between them, watching until they were both out of sight. The march to the border took a month. Caleb's letters arrived daily, filled with a poetic longing that made Adrian smile. He wrote back, assuring him all was well and that he would return soon. The journey was an education. He saw firsthand that the peaceful and prosperous nation he led was an illusion for many. On the frontiers, people suffered from raids, exploitation by the local dynasties, and crushing poverty. He clenched his fists. One day he swore he would bring true peace to every corner of this land. He soon discovered what Thorn's true advantage was. He had bribed nearly the entire western garrison. The moment Adrian's forces entered the main city, they were surrounded. On the city walls stood Marcus Thorn, laughing. "You young fool. You knew it was a trap, so why did you walk right into it?" He bellowed to the soldiers. "The man who brings me the president's head will be a founding lord of our new nation." Adrian laughed back. "You have your plans, Thorn, but did you think I didn't have my own?" He projected his voice, addressing the surrounding soldiers. "I am your president, and I am protected by the will of the people. I offer you this. Lay down your arms today, and your actions will be forgiven. When this is over, land will be granted to you. You will be citizens in good standing. But if you persist, you will be shown no mercy. Think about why you joined this army. Was it to turn your guns on your own countrymen?" The soldiers hesitated, looking at one another. Half of them lowered their weapons. A young captain stepped forward. "Mr. President, is what you say true? Our treason will be pardoned, and we will be given land?" "You have the word of your president," Adrian replied. Thorn, seeing his army dissolving, panicked. "Don't listen to his lies. Kill him." Just as the two sides were about to clash, a scout galloped in, screaming, "Sir, 10 miles out, an army approaching. It's the Vance Legion." The general had sent his main force east as a feint, while he and his elite troops took a secret route to reinforce Adrian. But Thorn was beyond reason. He kicked the scout viciously. "Kill them. Anyone who hesitates will be executed." The battle was brutal, a tragic clash between countrymen. But Adrian's side, bolstered by the hope he had given them, fought with fierce loyalty. In the end, he personally cut down Marcus Thorn. "Your leader is dead. Surrender now." He shouted the words, and then, as the adrenaline faded, the pain from a deep gash in his back overwhelmed him, and he collapsed. His last thought before darkness took him was that Caleb was going to be furious with him for getting hurt. When he awoke, he ignored his injuries and immediately set about redistributing the Thorn family's land and wealth to the people, establishing new civic structures and personally appointing honest local leaders. Only when the region was stabilized did he give the order to return home. The journey back was swift. He couldn't wait to see Caleb, to tell him everything he had accomplished. But when he finally walked into the study and saw him, all words failed him. He just wanted to hold him. "Rian, you're back," Caleb said, looking up from a stack of documents. He rose and walked quickly toward him. "I'm back," Adrian whispered into his ear. "You're Tanner," Caleb observed, his eyes a mixture of pride, relief, and something else Adrian couldn't quite decipher. "And leaner, stronger." He took in the sight of him. "You must be exhausted. You should rest." He started to lead Adrian toward the bedchambers. A sudden, sharp movement pulled at Adrian's wound, and he winced. Caleb froze, unsure whether to push forward or retreat. Adrian held him tight. "I rather liked your method for dealing with an injury last time," he whispered, his voice so quiet it was almost lost. But Caleb heard. He gripped Adrian's waist, his voice a low growl. "Tonight, Rian, I will not let you go, even if you beg." The candles in their room burned all night. When the matter of the prince consort was raised again in the assembly, the ministers were mostly silent. No one wanted to cross a decisive, battle-hardened president and his ruthlessly intelligent partner. Even the old senator held his tongue. It was General Vance who broke the silence, nudging his son with his shoulder. "Your Highness," he said with a grin. "Receive your decree." Caleb knelt. "I thank the President for this honor." Isabella burst into the room on the day of the official ceremony, looking flustered. She approached Adrian, then hesitated. He couldn't guess what she was up to. "Just say it, Isabella." Her eyes were wide with curiosity. "Brother, you're on top, right?" The question hit a little too close to home. With a straight face, Adrian waved for Stuart to escort her out. As she was being led away, she was heard muttering disappointedly, "Oh, so he's on the bottom." The day Caleb was officially welcomed to the White House as Prince Consort was bright and sunny. Adrian couldn't stop smiling. He declared a national holiday and hosted celebrations for officials and citizens alike. That night, as he entered their private chambers, he was so nervous he felt clumsy and awkward. Caleb was sitting on the bed, waiting for him. "I finally have you," Caleb said, his voice soft. On such a momentous night, he brought up something completely unexpected. "Rian, do you remember what you promised me?" Adrian vaguely remembered something about earrings. "Promised. So go ahead." "Not so fast," Caleb said with a smile. "First, you should get undressed." Adrian was confused. Why would he need to take his clothes off for earrings? Before he could protest, Caleb had deftly undone the buttons of his shirt. Adrian closed his eyes, bracing himself for the sharp pinch of a needle. "Caleb," he instructed, "make it quick." He couldn't see Caleb's expression, but he heard a low chuckle. "Of course. Rian, just try to bear with it for a moment." He waited, but the expected pain never came. Instead, he felt a cool, metallic sensation around his ankle. He opened his eyes to see Caleb fastening a delicate gold chain around it. It was adorned with small red jewels and tiny bells. He held the other end of the chain in his hand. "Piercing your ears would be unbefitting a president," Caleb explained, looking up at him. "So I thought I would tether you by your foot instead. Now, no matter how far you run, I can always pull you back." He then leaned down, and the bells on the chain chimed softly with his movement. Adrian stopped him, asking a question that had long been on his mind. "Caleb, why me? Why do you love me?" Caleb gently moved his hand aside, not answering the question. Just as Adrian was about to ask again, his lips were captured, and his thoughts were swept away by the rising tide of passion. In the last coherent moment he had, he heard Caleb whisper against his ear, "That's an answer I plan to spend the rest of my life showing you."